Welcome to another episode of Talking Small Press Comics.
Hi, and welcome to episode 63 of Talking Small Press Comics with Steve Keeter,
63.
me, Larned Justin, and our special guest today, Jason Gegroot.
Hello.
Hey, Jason, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, y'all. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm
Great
so
to have
excited.
you on.
Yeah, it's very much an honor to be included.
Wow.
Big respect for both of you. So this is, I've been very excited about
Well,
this.
thank you.
Since you asked me about it.
Good.
We have great respect for you as well. But
Here we go. But what?
there's something else going on. Today is someone's birthday.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
I saw
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this guy that looks
birthday.
like he looks like Santa Claus with a trimmed beard, but he has on a cap. This guy right here. It's hard to work this out, you know, because everything's backwards. This guy, Larned's birthday today.
That
Yeah,
is
he's 24.
fantastic.
I'm trying not to
24
count
years
those
old.
anymore at this point.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say happy birthday to Larned.
Chef.
And I just broke the arm off this guy, but the mouth still works. So
Well,
just
he was waving hard.
here we go. Like, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday,
to you. Happy birthday.
birthday, to small press legend you.
Oh, nice.
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So is it okay to ask how old you are?
You can ask. No.
Yeah.
All right.
You
I'm
sure
gonna
you
tell
want
you.
to?
I'm 82 years old. I'm not kidding.
You're 82?
Can you believe that?
82. Yeah.
Shut up. For real?
Born in
Yeah.
1942. Yes, sir.
I was stunned. I thought he was like, you know,
That's crazy.
I really thought maybe like 62.
Yeah.
This guy is in incredible shape.
82.
Well, I was telling Larned before we started, he didn't remember this. Well, now that I know he's 82,
Because
maybe
I'm
that's why.
82, I didn't remember it. Yeah, all right.
But we went to space together back in like '04 maybe, and had some beers at the Holiday Inn lounge.
I mean, I remember doing that.
He remembers the beer. He just doesn't remember me.
I probably
Doesn't remember anything after the beer.
Remember most of it.
Right. Well, and I assumed you were.
Wasn't Tim Corrigan there?
He might have been. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I went 2 years, and I don't remember the years I went, but
yeah.
But yeah, that was my first. That was when I first met you, and if you would, I mean, I guess that was what 20 years ago ish. So you would have been 62, and I would have I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
That's
He doesn't
crazy.
age. He doesn't age.
He doesn't age. I am very impressed.
I don't believe in acting your age, so you know.
I never did that either. I'm no spring chicken either. But
well, Steve, how old are you, Steve? If you don't mind me asking.
I am 67. I'll be 68 in April.
Man,
April 20,
y'all, we might need to just talk about how small press keeps you young, because
yeah, right.
It totally does, you know.
You look great.
Oh, thanks. I mean,
Yeah.
it totally does.
Steve,
Because if you're doing,
Steve,
go ahead, Martin.
your mustache fell off again.
Oh yeah, my mustache is gone. I woke up and it was just gone. I was like, what the heck, man?
He usually carries the real one in his pocket, you know, but I guess he doesn't have it.
I do have a spare mustache somewhere around here. I didn't think about bringing it. I totally forgot that I shaved the stash. I do it once in a while. I shave it off, then I grow it back.
Okay.
I went for like 40 years where I didn't shave it. And I don't know. I go back and forth. It's just something you do. When you get old, you do weird stuff, man. You're not normal. I never was normal to begin with.
It costs money, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. That doesn't surprise me.
Well,
but again,
one of the reasons I wanted to have Jason on was
because
he's doing so many projects.
Yeah,
I'd like you to kind of get into some of the stuff you're working on because it's really interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I mean, Yes, I'm happy to talk about it. It's been a bit of a renaissance for me over the last year, and I've got a big thanks to Joseph Morris.
Uh-huh.
He publishes from Torque Press,
Right.
and last year I bought a copy of Small Press Comics Party. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was the first one I
There you
had a
go.
published book, published story in.
Yeah.
Is that issue you got up,
I
Steve?
found it.
But he had a ad in the back that said he was looking for writers and artists. And as
Oh.
a writer, I'm sure y'all know it's a little bit harder to get gigs when you're just doing the writing. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, woohoo! So I was like, hey, can I write a story for you? And that story that you showed from that issue, Crystal Blue
Yeah.
Persuasion, was the first one I wrote for him, and that kind of just
Yeah.
exploded from there.
That's kind of a
Yeah,
wild story, kind of psychedelic. This one, kind of
yeah.
trippy. Um,
Joseph's amazing. I mean, that guy is.
yeah.
He puts out
Well,
some work, doesn't he?
Wow.
he does stuff like every day. I don't know. He
Every
does
day.
more.
Yeah.
He does
Yeah.
more in the morning before I wake up than I probably do in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I'd kind of,
Yeah, he's very prolific.
he absolutely is, and I'd been kind of lurking on the Small Press Heroes Facebook page for a couple
Mm-hmm.
years because I was pretty into small press back in like the early 2000s when I would go to space, and I was chairman of the
Mm-hmm.
UFO for a while, and then we
Uh-huh.
can get into it later
He-
if like what happened. But anyway, I'd kind of been lurking, and then I've been buying folks comics, and then I saw that ad, and then that just like I just started writing so many stories because I
Really?
knew because Joseph was looking for them, and I knew they were going to be published, and yeah, so this year just has really been just since last year has been a big renaissance. So like yeah, working with Joseph and Terry Flippo, um,
Yeah.
working with
Terry
my bud.
Flippo.
Oh yeah, I mean
Excellent
honestly,
artist.
the thing that's the coolest about all of this is that I've been working with all of these people I respect, like y'all, Larned, like just you doing that page for me like this week was it's all these crazy dreams come true that I've been having over the last year because I've had such respect for all of you for years, and what has been I think what held me back for a long time is having kind of what I would call imposter syndrome, where I'm like, I'm not like on a Terry Flippo level. I'm not like on a Larned Justin level. I don't know if I feel comfortable like
Hmm.
talking to
Yes,
them
you
about this
are.
stuff. Well,
Oh, come
I mean,
on.
I think what's been great has been all of you, and I think this speaks to small press in general, is it's full of so many kind people.
It
And
is amazing, isn't it, Jason? The
yeah, like
nicest people you
yeah,
will ever meet.
everybody so just embraces each other's
And
creativity.
you find that out like when you go to space.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't know anybody the first time I went there,
yeah,
and they treated me like an old friend, you know?
absolutely. Yeah.
It's
So
amazing.
I think when and Joseph, same thing. Like he's so great and does so much. I think when him and Terry started just having conversations with me like I was one of the gang, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I guess it's okay to I can work with them. Like it's cool. So yeah, that really got me. I very much felt very got more confidence
Yeah.
that my stuff was good enough that people like Joseph and Terry would want to work on it. And that's kind of just now that the gates open, I'm like I want to do everything all
All
the
kinds of
time.
stuff.
And I've been very fortunate for a long time. Make sure I mention these two folks, Mark Haynes, who did
Right,
all,
Mark Haynes.
and Dan Phillips. So the Dex Corrigan comics that we did the Kickstarters for over the last year, I've been working with them since the early 2000s, and they've
Oh,
kind of
wow.
been a constant
Right.
for
Yeah.
me, and they're so talented. Mark, I mean, he's a talented artist, but he also is really good with like the pre-press stuff. Like if you've looked at Dex Corrigan, the artwork on that, and the lettering and just like the coloring and stuff, like he just puts together. He's so great. He did the art, the pre-press stuff for Joseph's new anthology, Spitballs. Yeah. Anyway, can't say enough about those two guys. We've done a lot of projects together. And again, same thing.
I haven't seen Dex Corrigan, but I have seen the covers.
Yeah,
I've seen it online, Dex Corrigan, and it said Jason Gegroot. So I said, this has to be a good book.
Oh,
and Mark Haynes also.
Yeah, let me actually. I can show you your listeners. I can show you the covers.
Okay.
Give me just a second, and I'll bring it up. But
yeah, because the covers look really nice.
Y'all feel free to ask me questions while I'm bringing up.
Okay.
Some of this stuff.
Well, I mean, I kind of got involved with the Sunday Jam kind of thing when you invited me to, do a page for that. How did you get that idea and all that? How did you get that going?
Yeah.
Just came up with a thought?
So the way it happened, and I've got the page up, Larned, so whenever we can come to that in a little bit. But nice. So since we're talking about Sunday Jam and stuff right now.
Sunday Jam.
Yeah. So so the way it happened, like at the beginning, kind of and you got your copy, Larned. If you don't get your copy within the next week, I'm gonna just get in touch with Joe Bagden and have him send you a new one because
there's a jam center spread, and this is what happened?
Oh yeah, that's so Joe. Oh my God, it turned out so good. He's so good. Joe's amazing. Joe Bagden. I work with two different Joes who are publishers, and they're both amazing. So Joe Morris and Joe Bagden. But yeah, when he sent me the proof copy with the centerfold in there, I was like, Joe Bagden is just so great at just.
Oh yeah, he publishes those micro comics.
Yeah, he's just he's great about it.
Values are fantastic,
and we have all of them. We have all of those.
Very good.
Yeah, he loves experimenting with like just different like things, like from a production standpoint. Like we're working on a card game right now based off the Sunday Jam.
I knew that.
Right.
Yeah, which I'll talk. Yeah, sorry. That's the other problem with me. My brain is going in like a million directions because there's so many things I want to talk about.
We're going to put the grannies of retribution are going to be the demonic grannies of retribution. You asked me to do a card.
I'm so excited.
I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. So the way this all started. So the early part of last year, Terry and Joseph Morris and Mark Haynes and I were kind of like talking over Facebook chat. And as you know, Terry created the Small Press Heroes Facebook page.
Right.
And that's Mark had told me about it, and I kind of learned about it. And that's kind of how I started getting back into stuff and seeing what folks were back up to doing. But anyway, Terry was kind of like feeling, I guess, frustrated that there wasn't enough engagement. There's Terry's page.
Yeah, there's Terry's page,
Yeah. And so we started kind of brainstorming, like, what are some things that we could do to try to get people more engaged? And so we were trying to come up with, like, let's try to come up with, like, something every day that we can do that will get people to kind of like contribute to the conversation at the Facebook group. So that was kind of how it all started. And some of it just, some of it worked, some of it didn't. But the one thing I wanted to do, because ever since I learned about it, and I probably learned about it at Space back in the day, was a jam comic.
Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah.
I think it's the most amazing idea, the most creative and fun thing to do. Like, just people, like, I've since doing this, I've really come to appreciate collaborative storytelling, and I'm obsessed with it. Like, I'm super obsessed with this Sunday Jam thing. But anyway, I'm like, let's try a jam comic. And so I did the first page, which isn't great. My artwork's not particularly good, but I'm like, that's fine, because what I wanted people to feel comfortable with is, look, you don't have to be an amazing. Oh yeah, so there we are, the very first page.
That's
Jason,
pretty good. That doesn't. It's very rare to see Jason Gegroot artwork, and
Yeah.
it is. There's a reason for that.
You know more as a writer than as an artist, but
Yeah,
this is
but
okay.
it's not
It
bad.
works.
I mean,
It's funny.
you can see what what is the things are. So I guess that's the important thing. But
No, it
my
tells
point,
the story. You're a very good storyteller.
yeah. And so, but I wanted to be like, look, you don't necessarily have to be an amazing artist to be a part of this. Like, this is about fun. It's about creativity. So I put the first page up, and we were like, we'll do it every Sunday. And that was how it started. And then I posted it July 4th, I think, is when the first page went up, and I posted it on the Small Press Heroes Facebook page, and like, hey y'all, so here's the first page of the Sunday Jam. Whoever wants to do it next. And Alan Groening immediately, within an hour, added a new page.
And this one in full color.
And it was in color, and it involved a demon.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? It was exactly what I was hoping would happen, was someone would just take it in like a direction that you could not ever even imagine. And so it just kind of slowly built from there. And I'm a bit OCD, so now when I'm like, oh, people will actually participate, then I just started like reaching out to the people I really respect, and like, hey, would you be interested? And I had no expectations. I figured people would be like, that's nice, and pat me on the head, and then say I don't have time. But I was really shocked how many people said yes, including y'all. I was like, because
you know what was
Okay,
interesting? I remember when you contacted me. Yeah, there's my page.
yeah, you all.
I remember when you contacted me, and it was in the summer.
Yeah.
And you said, would you want to do a page? I said, yeah, I'll do a page. He said, okay, that'll be in December.
Right. Well,
Right.
and that's what's been crazy, because when I started it out, I'm like, well, what we'll probably have to do, because I'm guessing we won't get a lot of participation. So the rules will be every third page you can do another page. Like, I was like, I'll probably have to do, every third page I'll have to contribute. So if you would have told me when I started it that, because we're up to 78 contributors now.
Wow.
We're scheduled up through the end of this year, and the only reason we haven't gone farther than that is because what I'm finding now when I reach out to people, and the same thing as what happened with you, Larned. I'm like, would you like to contribute? And they're like, yeah, that'd be good. I'm like, okay, this is going to happen in a year from now. And I'm like, a year from now, what? So,
well, that's not so bad for small press. I mean, sometimes it takes a while for small press publishers to come around.
The idea is that you've got to wait that year before you can even imagine what you're going to draw.
Exactly.
You've got to know what the previous page was.
Yeah, and exactly. And what I've been this kind of gets back to what we were talking about with how kind and creative everybody is in small press. Like, everybody is genuinely excited about the idea because it's just about having fun. It's just about being creative and maybe challenging each other a little bit with like the story, like, ooh, what are you going to do with this now that I dropped this bomb in the story? What's somebody going to do with it next?
It really took off. I mean, even because I saw when you announced it, and I thought, okay, it's another jam, and then all of a sudden you were posting pages, and there was this guy. You had Floyd Sumner, you had all kinds of people in there, and I mean, I was just stunned. I mean, it just took off, and then Larned was saying, "Are you going to contribute to the Sunday Jam?" He asked me, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not. I don't draw much anymore. I'm mostly a writer, kind of like you, but I said, okay, I'll give it a shot, right? And so then I came up with this is my page, if you don't mind.
And you did it was amazing. The demonic grannies of retribution.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Who thinks of that? that's the thing. I was when y'all said that you were gonna interview me, I was so excited about it, and I'm like, I could literally probably just talk about the Sunday Jam the whole time because it's every
Really, you
page.
could do the whole show on that.
You really could.
Here's
Every
Bob
page that
Corby.
yeah, and that's what's been crazy because basically I'm like, you know what, as people started contributing, I got more confidence because I'm like, these amazing artists are doing this. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm gonna start just reaching out to like people that I'm like a little intimidated by, include like y'all and Terry Wood,
Intimidated by us.
Nick Durga,
Yeah.
like you were talking about Floyd. I mean, all these people that I've been like, I've had
Yeah.
such respect for like years, and
Nick Durga.
every time I would reach out, I would be like, "There's no way." I mean, Nick Durga, Amoeba Adventures.
Yeah.
He's not gonna. He don't know who I am. He's not gonna do it. And he's like, "Yeah, I'll
Was
do
he
it."
in
I'm like,
New
"What?"
Zealand, didn't he?
Yeah, he's in New Zealand.
New
Terry
Zealand.
Wood, who
Mhm.
Wandering Star is one of my favorite series of all time. And again, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm going to just ask her. I'm just going to ask. That's kind of my philosophy now is I'm just going to ask. The worst thing people are going to say is no. And they do. And even when they do, everybody's very nice about it. But in general, almost everybody says yes. And
Yeah.
it's so great. It's so great because, yeah, everybody
Well,
brings.
you're only asking for a page, so it's
Well,
not like it's going to be a lot of work or anything.
Well, and that I think that is a big lesson I learned over the
Mhm.
last year because when I started way back in like the early 2000s, I was like, because I'm a big fan of long form storytelling. I grew up
Mhm.
with Marvel comics
Mhm.
that had like years long stories, and I loved it. And so when I started kind of doing my own stuff like Codex Protocol and Creator and all those, they were these huge sprawling epics in my head. And so I've been very fortunate. Another person I got to call out, or he's gonna be like, "What? You didn't mention me?" Pedro Laboy, who's been working with me on Quiddix Protocol for probably like a decade now. Um,
Now that
I've
name I don't know. Hmm.
yeah, he's basically just been working on my stuff.
Oh.
I actually just finished scripting the first episode, the first issue of his own series that hopefully is going to be coming out this year called Kill Grid, and it's awesome. Anyway, I've been very fortunate, like working with Dan and Mark and Pedro, who have been very great about just like, yeah, I will help you tell this super like hundreds of pages long story, but it takes a long, long time.
Well, that's a
And
graphic novel, yeah.
yeah, exactly. And there's people don't have that kind of time. Oh, another person I should mention too, Craig Walden, who is the artist on Gargoyle Park, and you might have seen his artwork. Actually, let me hold on 1 second. Let me
Okay.
bring.
Yeah, I haven't
pull it
seen
up.
that one yet either. I don't
I
think.
haven't seen
I've heard of
it
it,
either.
but I have.
Yeah, let
The
me.
more recent stuff I haven't seen.
Yeah, let me. So he's amazing. He's unbelievably detailed.
Wow.
They're all amazing. That's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Nice buildings, that's for sure.
Oh yeah,
Gargoyle
you can see
Park.
my screen.
Very curious.
Yeah.
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 Wow. Oh, there you go. Ooh, yeah, raise it up a little bit higher.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That's some great
Yeah.
work. Woo.
Yeah. Let me share a different screen with you real quick because
All right.
yeah, give me just a second and I'll bring up like one of his recent pages.
You need to teach us how to do that.
I will. Yeah.
Well,
Well, like I said, this is what I do for my job, so it kind of I've kind of
This is a page from one of the. This is a page from one of the Creator stories. The art by
that's
Rick Johnson.
Rick Johnson. That's the very first Creator story. And that was in the UFO All Comics Annual, I believe.
UFO All Comics Annual.
Yep.
Yeah, I managed to
Yeah.
dig that. I went through I know you were a UFO chairman from 2003 to 2006, and so I went through those issues and look at this guy's artwork. Oh my God!
Yeah, Rick is amazing too.
Yeah.
I've been unbelievably fortunate to like work with unbelievably talented people. So like that's the great thing about being a writer is that you can write in so many different genres. And so yeah, this is one of the most recent pages of Gargoyle Park that Craig has
Wow.
done. I
That
know,
is
right?
pretty cool.
Isn't it
Yeah.
amazing? Like a level of detail that he puts in this stuff is
Yeah.
just.
What's
But
his name again?
Craig Wolden,
Greg Walden.
Wolden.
Wow.
Again, just I've been
Really
unbelievably
nice.
fortunate to work with all of these different super talented artists. And with being a writer, kind of focus solely on the writing aspect of it, because you get to work with all these different artists, you can really play around with genres and stuff. Yeah. So anyway, so back in the day, I'm like, I'm going to tell these huge sprawling epics. And what I've learned from like working with Joseph, it's so much easier to get folks on board, to your point, Larned, about
One page.
one page,
Yeah.
because that's a much easier commitment than like, hey, will you draw 120 pages of this
Yeah,
space
right.
epic
Oh my
for me
God! Right.
for free? With
I'm
no pay?
currently trying to draw.
For free, I like that.
32
Welcome
pages,
to the small press.
and I can't get that done.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so I think that's why the Sunday Jam has been as successful as it's been, because it hasn't been, it's not a huge time commitment.
Right.
And what was really helpful working with Joseph on those shorter stories, because I was so used to doing long form stuff, I started focusing on like really trying to like focus on short stories that are self-contained, and it's just an easier sell for an artist because they're like, it's not like this huge time commitment. Yeah.
Here's another one you did with Joseph, the Crimson and Clover over and over, based on the Tommy James and the Shondell song.
Yeah. So one thing I loved. So I'm a big fan of a prompt, because I might not be the most creative person in the world, but if I can get a good prompt that can get my brain started working.
Yeah.
So like the first one he published was Crystal Blue Persuasion, and so then
another Tommy James and the Shondell song. Those songs were by Tommy James back in the '60s.
Exactly. So I did that one, and then I'm like, maybe let me do another Tommy James song, and then I'm like, Crimson and Clover, and then I'm like, okay, what kind of story do I tell with Crimson and Clover? And then it turned into a story about a cow and a dragon. And Clover's the cow, Crimson's the dragon. And then, so the lyrics are Crimson and Clover over and over. And so it was about Crimson cloning himself, because it was Crimson and Clover over and over.
Right.
So
That was a funny story.
And then I did another one with, it was called, I don't remember the title of it, but it was Trippy the dog, where he was
From
like
Hugs to Eternity.
Yeah, From Hugs to Eternity. I can't believe I forgot the name of it. That's based on the Dragging in the Line song.
Dragging the Line.
I mean, yeah. So there's a lot thing in there about hugging a tree when you get near it. And I think I was like dragging the line, and then I came up with something about a lion, and there was a lion in it then, and then there was something.
Yeah, there was a lion.
Dog. Yeah. So these are all. So part of me is like, I'm gonna continue at some point doing other songs based on Tommy James.
Yeah, I've done a couple. Did you ever hear of Pancho and Lefty?
Yeah.
I did that.
I know that one.
It will be in Yeet, the next issue of Yeet.
Yeah.
Pancho and Lefty will be in that.
And Yeet, I mean, another example of I finally, actually, I think last night finally got to sit down and read the most recent issue of it. It's just another example of like, it's astounding the amount of talent that's just in the small press.
Yeah, Yeet, Mike Jones, and all the great talents there. Yeah, there's a lot of great,
Yeah.
a lot of great people involved with that.
But like I was
So
telling
we're fans
Larned,
too.
part of the problem, I guess it's not a problem necessarily, but part of the problem I've discovered now that I'm working on comics so much now is I don't have as much time to read comics or like watch. I was telling Larned, you know, I'm so impressed how many episodes y'all have done, but I haven't really had a chance to actually sit and watch it because I don't have time.
I know.
I've only got like an hour
Yeah.
or two a day to myself to try to like get all these things done.
Yeah.
And so the only ones I
Right.
typically am able to read. So if you remember John Yo Jr., who did the Adventurers back
Mm-hmm.
in the 90s, which
John Yeager.
that's that's kind of what got me into small press in the first place.
Mm.
He has a comic book shop in Indiana,
Oh.
and he sends me a
I
shipment
didn't know
every
that.
month of comic books, which I give
Oh.
to
No
some of
kidding.
my friends' kids,
Hmm.
like nieces and nephews, as presents. Because my wife's rule is any comic books coming in the house have to go back out.
Oh,
Because
really?
I got so many,
Oh.
I've got boxes and boxes. She's like, if you're getting any more new comics, they can't stay. So I buy them and then I give them as presents to people. But yeah, I'll get like my stack of comics every month, and I'm able to usually get done with them by the time the next month's shipment is there. But it takes a while. If you'd have told me that I wasn't going to have time to read comic books, I'd be like, what?
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't sound good, right?
I understand
But
being busy.
it's a good problem to have because I'm working on comic books, and that's
What?
why I don't have time to do other stuff. So
Where do you live? What state are you in?
I am in Austin, Texas.
Oh, okay.
I'm originally from Minnesota.
Hmm.
I grew up on a farm in a very rural part of Minnesota, and
Hmm.
uh, you know, I think small press was also like I kind of got into it in the mid '90s,
Yeah.
and there's nothing like. So I'm a huge fan of the mail, big fan of the mail because I grew up, you know, in the '80s, so
Mm-hmm.
pre-internet.
Yeah.
Um, you pretty much were connected through the mail,
Yeah.
and so
Exactly.
there's nothing. And I to this day, there's nothing like the feeling you get when you get a comic book
I know.
sent to you
It
from
never goes
somebody.
away.
I love it.
I know.
Yeah,
Absolutely, man.
yeah.
I love to check
I
my
don't have it
mailbox
anymore,
every
but I
day.
used to have a post office box. My
Oh yeah,
biggest thing was to run over to the post office and check the post office box.
yeah. Oh yeah. There's
That
nothing
was,
like when you get a Manila envelope
yeah.
that's a digest size
Mhm.
comic.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I
But
gotta.
you know, when I first started, I didn't really know what I was getting into with
Uh-huh.
people. And the reason I got the box was didn't want to give them my real address
Right.
because I didn't know what was to expect, you
Sure.
know.
Totally
And
fair.
Right.
honestly, the
Yeah.
very first comic book I got
Uh-huh.
was utterly filthy. I mean, I've never gotten one that bad since that first one came. I don't even know who did it, but it was. I went, holy cow! Is this what I
So,
got into?
how did you
I've gotten a few of those over the years.
did you not know what it was about when you ordered it, or how did it
I don't. I think it was sent. I
just
don't think I ordered it. I think it
okay?
was just the guy sent it to me.
Because you knew
Maybe
you were
he
a
got my
published.
name from Oregon's, small press comic explosion,
Yeah.
something like that. And he sent it to me, and it was the first thing I ever got, and I couldn't believe it. Never have gotten anything like that since.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna touch it anyway. Yeah. Well, so yeah. So I love getting comics in the mail, and I love sending comics in the mail because I
Yeah.
know that there's just nothing like getting a comic
Oh,
book in
that's
the
right.
mail.
That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Let me
Yeah.
just say, I want to
Never
say
get
something
tired.
real quick.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
real quick, if you give me a second here. Jason was, as I said, he was chairman of the UFO from
Yes.
2003 to 2006. This is just some of the titles, some of the issues Tetragrammaton Fragments, the UFO newsletter that he was the publisher of.
Wow. Cool.
There's a bunch of them here with all kinds of great talents involved. And also, in the year 2006, I believe it was in 2006, you became a member of the revived BPP group, which is an offshoot of the UFO.
Of the UFO.
You weren't the chairman, but I pulled out all the ones that had that listed you as a member, and I came up with all these titles here.
Wow.
So you were involved in both the UFO and the BPP, and of course there's a long history. The UFO began as the BPP Blue Plaque Publications, and this is a different group. It's not the original group, but it's based on the original group. So you've really had a huge involvement. And talking about trading and receiving the small press comics, you must have gotten tons of comics just by being members of both of these organizations.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad. That reminds me of when. Oh yeah, man. So back in the 90s when I first got into small press, I think and I still don't remember like how I learned about it, but I think one of the first books I got, it was either John Yo's The Adventurers or it was Bob Alenskis' Small Press Feedback, which Bob, by the way, helped me get my job that I have now, that I've had for 20 years with the American Cancer Society, because that's where Bob works too. He's another amazing person.
Is he still active in small press?
He is. I don't think he's done as much lately. In fact, he gave me his blessing, which was very nice of him to actually revive small press feedback. So I've been doing like some reviews here and there online. But again, I haven't had the time to read comics too much. I just did one though for David Mackler's Time Force, which you have to check it out when you get a chance. It's great. And it really reminded me of those comics that I would read back in the 90s. But what I was going to say is, I think Small Press Feedback or The Adventurers had the UFO checklist. And
Bob Alenskis was chairman for a while of the UFO.
Yeah, and that checklist just blew my mind, because it was, all I knew about comic books was Spider-Man and Superman, just Marvel, DC. That was my only frame of reference. And then suddenly I've got this checklist of like amoeba adventures, army ants, and like just these little pictures, and my mind was just like, what are these stories? These it was just this whole new universe of amazing stories that
That's
I had
amazing.
to know. Yeah, just the amount of creativity in the small press is so. Looking at the UFO checklist is still one of my favorite things. Like Larry Johnson just posted the most recent one, and I still get that giddy little feeling of like, oh, look at all these cool things. And my favorite part of being a UFO chairman was putting together the checklist. Like that was my favorite part of being the UFO chairman, of just trying to like find the picture from that comic book that really like summed up what each of those comics was about, writing up like a summary and just trying to make it like as exciting to someone else as the ones were when I would look at them back in the day. So
this is really good to hear. This is really good to hear that seeing the UFO checklist had an impact on you, because the checklist has been with the group, as I have off and on, for 50 years. Well, more than 50, because it was in Carl Gafford's original BPP, the BPP checklist. But some people have questioned whether the checklist does any good. Do you actually receive sales from that, or does it influence anybody in any way? And just to hear you say that, you UFO guys out there that are watching this, proof positive right here that checklist is important, and it does make a difference, and it does bring people into small press. And what can I say? I'm really happy to hear you say that.
You can't have T-frags without a checklist. Like, you can't.
Right.
You have to have a checklist. I can't even imagine not having the UFO checklist. That's just, I mean, it's just such a great. And to your point, I don't know
It's
if
awesome.
it's generated sales. I mean, but I mean that, and that brings up a whole.
Not a huge amount, but
Sure.
it does make a difference. And plus,
Absolutely.
It's a tradition. It's gone on for 50 years. It's going to be in there as long as I'm involved with
Yeah.
the group. It's going to be in there.
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah, that's.
I wanted to ask you too, before we forget,
Yeah.
your current project on the playing cards. Tell us about that. How's that
Yeah.
work?
Well,
Yeah,
so
that's
this is what's been
now.
so great about the Sunday Jam is it's spawned all these cool ideas just because everybody's been so awesome. So this is like the third offshoot, actually probably fourth, because so for one thing, I didn't think we'd ever have enough to actually print a comic book at all, and then suddenly, I started talking to Joe Bagden, and I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right because I've been talking to him forever. But that's the thing, when you talk to everybody over email, you're not necessarily sure how do you. In fact, that's why I was so excited about your Matt Fizzell interview, because I never knew how to pronounce his last name.
Make sure you know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, like, oh, now I know how to pronounce it because I watched your interview with him. But
There you go.
yeah, so Joe and I got to talking, and then he was like, "Hey, let's publish. We can do like a collected volume of it." And I'm like, "Yeah," because we now have enough. Like, we're gonna do it. We're doing it twice a year, and we've got enough. So we're gonna do. I mean, assuming everybody does their pages, we'll have enough for 3 collected editions so far.
Wow. Oh,
and
cool.
then, and I promise I'll get to the card question in just a second. So then I came up with the idea, because all of the thing about the Sunday Jam is it just sparks so much excitement and creativity in me every time I see a new page. So then I came up with the idea of Jamtober, where we're going to put together like a smaller little comic book that we can hand out for Halloween.
Yeah.
And we're about halfway done with it. I think we've got
I did do a page for that, didn't I? Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did page 2. You did page 2.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was fantastic. Yeah, so good. And it's good. Yeah, so we got that. We're doing, because it's been so successful, and we're going to have a 1-year anniversary. We're currently working on a thank you comic book for all the contributors called the Jamiversary. And the first page, I just got Amisha, who's from India, who's never actually made comic books before, just sent me like the rough draft of the first page, because she got assigned the first page, and it looks amazing. And so yeah, hopefully we'll have that done by July, so that we can mail it out to all the contributors as just a thank you for being a contributor. So anyway, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
So just recently, the page 30. Let me look at my chart here. Because I have to have a spreadsheet now, because there's so many people who've contributed.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. So John,
unbelievable how this is taking off.
I know. I'm so excited about it. So John Withers, the 4th, his page involved a deck of cards. Actually, I tell you what. I'll share my screen again with y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's this page that John submitted.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I did see that, yeah.
Yeah, so he sent like the first picture. I didn't realize initially when he sent it that it was going to be like 3 panels. So he sent me that first panel, and I thought that was going to be like the whole page. And I thought, oh, wow, that's great. It looks really cool. And then he did the rest of it. It turned out even better when he sent me everything. But then I'm like,
okay, here's a question. How do you get 3 sides to a playing card?
How do you get?
How do you do that?
That's a great question. That is a great question. If I figure it out, I'll let you know. But so when he sent me that first picture, it kind of got my brain buzzing, and I was like, man, you know what would be cool if we did a card game based on like the Sunday Jam characters. And so I just emailed Joe, because poor Joe, he gets sometimes like he'll get like 6 emails from me in a day, because I'll be like, Joe, what about this idea? Hey, what about this idea? And luckily, the great thing about Joe is that he's up for pretty much everything, and it's been fantastic because a lot, one thing I've learned is that sometimes I got to rein it in because I'll be like, I got this great idea, and someone's like, I don't got time for all these things. You got to settle it down. But yeah, so I'm like, Joe, what do you think about a card game based on the Sunday Jam? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. Like
Let's kill
immediately.
it.
I'm like, oh, what? Okay. So we've been working on that for probably 2-3 weeks now. And we've started, so Joe, we've started kind of like riffing, trying to figure out like what the cards will, like what the gameplay will be, because so I love like card games like Magic and that kind of thing, but I've never been good at them, and never really had a chance to play them, and I'm not the brightest bulb sometimes, so I don't always get how to play them. So what I told Joe is like, I want to make this, but it has to be something I can actually understand. I want to be able to actually play it. So we've been going back and forth on like gameplay and stuff, and starting to figure out like what all the cards are. And right now the plan is we're going to have 52 cards in the deck. And so we're in the process of soliciting for illustration. So any viewers who are interested, definitely let me know. I think we've got 16 people, including Steve.
The grannies are coming for your children.
The demonic grannies of retribution are going to have their own card. But so far, I've only opened it up to the Sunday Jam contributors. I think so Joe is this weekend is sending me like a list of all the cards and like what they do, because he's again amazing. So he's been like working on it, and so now once I get that like in place, because I have I have so many spreadsheets now because of all these projects. Once I get my spreadsheet put together, I'm gonna I'll probably open it up to like just anybody and see if anybody would be interested in contributing. But
another thing is that card that you show there is rather interesting because it's a Jack of Hearts on top and it's a King of Spades on the bottom on the same card.
Yeah, and
how do you do that?
Right.
He did that based off of. Here, let me go back a couple of pages.
Oh, this was based on the Jam. Okay.
Yeah, so this is all from the Jam, and then he kind of did it based off of this page by Chris Lukowski.
Oh, so I see. Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. So again, everybody's just so great about like riffing off of each other's ideas. Like this is Leary, Tobias. The other thing is let me show this real quick because this page got me super excited. So this was what went up on last Sunday. This is Andrew Gray, and what Andrew did was he actually told a whole like secret origin for our main character Digby. So there's actually, if you go to this, if you click on this link, which it's not going to show up because I'm not sharing that screen, but it's actually going to go back to actually I'm going to show this screen too because it's such a great idea, and it really got me. It really like captured like what I wanted to do with this. Give me just a second. Let me bring up.
The Sunday Jam is like the event of the year, last year and this year. It's kind of like, and the first one ends without a conclusion. So we're ending on Nick Durga's page, and they're working on the second on another one. So this story goes on and on and on. I mean, I'm kind of curious, how long do you think this story is going to go on, or do you think there never will be an end? Maybe it will go on forever.
Well, my hope is it will be self-sustaining and it will continue to go. That would be my dream. But what I've thought about is if it kind of runs out of steam, which I mean, this is small press, and that definitely happens.
It may not run out of steam.
I hope it doesn't, because what's been great is so Andrew's page, this is like a whole secret storyline he did. And so this is outside of the main storyline, but he then told like this 7-page story that had nothing to do, like it was like this is just all separate. And then what he did was he took this, it was like this is our main character, but now he's an adult. And then he brought it back. So this is now he brought it back to the main storyline again. And so it's like this secret. It's basically like these secret pages that people are doing now. Like they're doing like alternate timelines off of the main storyline, which you can't do. Like
It's amazing.
That's my favorite thing about webcomics is that, and that's been my dream for like one of my dreams for the longest time was to be able to do a comic book online where that could be told in a non-linear fashion, because you have the ability to go off on your own tangents, and that's what several people have done now. Like Andrew did like the biggest piece, like he did like a whole 7-page epic basically, and then looped it back in. But Alan Groening added an extra page. Ken Bailey added like he's like, here's what happened 30 seconds
Ken
before
Bailey.
my page.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And
That's
Tony
getting
Lawrence.
complicated.
Yeah, it's so complicated. I've got all these spreadsheets because I gotta like try to keep track of everything that's going on in the story. But like Tony Lawrence,
Your audience is going to have a spreadsheet.
I know, it's true. It's very true. Well,
Jason, all of this is going to be included in the upcoming summit. All this, the 7 pages and the whole deal, it's all going to be in there?
Well, my idea is we're going to do like this collected Sunday Jam will be kind of like the main storyline. And what I'm hoping to do is if we get enough, like, for instance, if we get more people that contribute to kind of these alternate timelines, I want to do like a special edition printed version with like, and I'm going to call it like, I don't know, Super Secret Origins or something like that, that will collect kind of like these tangent stories.
This is brilliant. This is brilliant.
I love, like, again, I could talk about this. I could just talk about this the rest of the day because
I'm glad you came on and mentioned that because I didn't know anything about alternate storylines.
Yeah.
And a lot of people wouldn't know.
Yeah. So this is an open invitation.
Alternate storyline.
Open invitation to you,
Yeah.
both y'all, and anybody who's watching, and hopefully some of our contributors will watch this too. Anytime someone feels like just like they kind of, because the cool thing about this is like all these cool concepts come up, but then they kind of go away because the next person takes the next page and they might take it in just this whole different direction. But if you're like, but I really wanted to do this, I really wanted to see what they would do it. Send me a page and I'll put it up. So you can absolutely, like, if you're like, I really want to explore this instead, or like, I'm really interested in this character. This character is really interesting to me. Do something with it and send it to me and I'll put it up because I really want this to turn into like, I want it to be like where you're like reading it and then you're like, because there's going to be, there's these links that say, or go to this page and explore this. So I really want it to be this place of discovery where people can like be reading the story and then suddenly they're like, wait, what's this about? And just go off on these little like,
That's
tangents.
Very different.
So yeah, I love it. So to that point, I do hope it goes on indefinitely. But my thought, because when I was kind of just thinking in my head what, like for this interview, my thought is if it's like, look, it's going to run out of steam, there's just not interest anymore for whatever reason, I think what I'm going to do is we'll get to like the last contributor and then I'm going to just be like, how do you want this to end? And anybody can come up with a page of how they think it should end. And then I'm going to basically just have a page of endings.
Alternate endings.
Just whatever. So everybody can take it. So that's how I think, if hopefully it doesn't end, because what I hope is like years from now, I'll be gone. And it'll be like Sunday Jam, page 1052. And it's just so, I mean, honestly, if you'd have told me, because, I started page 1 with a very simple, it's a guy and his dog in a park. Well, actually, this shows my lack of drawing abilities. It was supposed to be, so I don't know if you've ever heard, there's this character called Jenny Everywhere. And she's an open source character, basically meaning someone created it and they're like, anybody can use her in any comic books. No strings attached, which Sunday Jam is the same thing. It's open source. So people can take any characters on there other than the like Ken's, Ken and Joe, and I think someone else had their Steve Wallet. They put their own characters in there, so obviously they're copyrighted and everything. But otherwise, it's all open. Like if someone does like a Digby Dangler comic book, and like,
That's okay.
oh yeah, yeah, I want it to be just I want it to be a playground, like where people can just play with these ideas.
He's an easy character to draw, so somebody should really take that up.
Yeah, and like Steve, your demonic grannies of retribution, I would be tickled pink if like one day in the mail I get some like random comic book from someone who's like, I just really like this, so I made a comic book about him. It'd be so cool. It would be so cool.
The origin of the demonic grannies of retribution. That's the story that needs to be told, I think.
Yeah,
So,
it's insane to me. Like
it probably made a TV series.
Oh man, that would be amazing. So we're 34 pages in, and there's already like so many characters that people have created specifically for this story.
But you know what you've done? You're like George Lucas. So you've created an entire universe. It started with 3 panels, and this whole universe has developed. And you can't just. I mean, I don't see how you could just drop it all of a sudden. That's okay. And well, yeah. So if the thing about coming up with an ending, I remember we did the UFO. There was a UFO Jam comic that we did back in the early 1990s, and back then we didn't have internet, so everybody was actually mailing copies of each page, and they would mail back the finished artwork. It took over a year to do the thing.
Oh,
and towards the end, I was chairman, so I was trying to put this together, and I wanted it to be a cohesive story. When you got a bunch of people contributing, they go off in all these different areas. And you want to bring it back somewhere, and so I had Ian Shires write an actual ending, and I believe I drew the ending to that one, but I did manage to close it out. But in a Jam comic or a series of Jam comics, it's almost impossible. It's never going to end because it's always shooting out all over the place, and people are going to say, they go off on their own tangents. But so it takes control to pull that off.
Yeah, it's so.
This keep talking. I got to run over in the other room for 1 second.
Oh yeah, no worries. That's the thing. I mean, this could not have happened without the internet. To your point.
Yeah. Like, just a second. Well, let me tell you what I really think about Larned. No, I'm just kidding. But, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. That's awesome. I was gonna say. This couldn't have happened without the internet. Like to your point about, it took you a year to do like one. I mean, honestly, I think this last year is really like, I mean, it's probably obvious to most people, but like how awesome the internet is. Like I've been able to do so much over the last year because, me and Joe and Mark and Terry will just be chatting over Facebook for a little while. I'll shoot an email over to someone like, hey, I got this idea. Like I've had more stories published last year than I've probably since I started doing comic books. And it's because you can do stuff so much quicker now, which I guess again seems very obvious. Oh, stop saying what we were saying about Larned now, Steve.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about Larned. I said nothing.
I was listening.
Zilcho.
I know it.
Oh no, I'm doomed. Hey, I got a Mr. Midnight story that you wrote here. It's an action theater.
Yes.
Action theater with art by someone really
Joel
good.
Kodahar. I wrote that like years ago. I actually wrote that probably in the early 2000s when I was like. Because when I thought I was going to be the next big publisher, didn't happen. But it's a good example of you got to be patient. Because I've been sitting on that artwork for years, and then again, Joe Morris is an amazingly prolific publisher, and I'm like, hey, what do you think this might be a cool story to show? He's like, yeah, I'm actually. He was like, yeah, I'm let's call it small press action theater and let's make a comic. Like he literally, that's how it came together. Bob was really nice to let me use Mr. Midnight because again, another small press character that just got my brain buzzing. And Joel, I haven't talked to Joel in years, but he's an artist from the Philippines and amazing artist.
Created by Babalucas. Oh, is it from the Philippines?
Joel
I got a Philippine shirt on right now. This is Boracay Island, the Philippines.
That's crazy.
So maybe,
wow.
Maybe he would appreciate that.
I
live in a house with other people, and 4 of the other people in the house are Filipinos. So
interesting.
We're all good friends. There's 4 Filipinos, 1 guy from Vietnam, and me, and we live in this house.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting.
But,
we're
a multicultural house.
I also did a story for Joe's.
Yes.
Small press.
Yeah, with Uncle Pook, right?
Uncle Pook, right there. He wrote that. Yeah, he wrote that.
I saw that one.
Yeah. Yeah. He sent me about 10 copies of it.
Yeah, he's great.
I did like 2 pages. He sent me 10 copies.
He's amazing. Yeah, he's amazing. I just actually started subscribing to his Patreon because he publishes his he does his strips like every day. I don't know.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I don't know how he finds the time.
How he does it.
Not just, I mean, he does the strips, but then, he's publishing, we're doing Spitballs. That's coming out every month now. Like he's already done issue 2, I think, is printed. And the plan is for it to go at least for the year and he's got like each issue is going to be like, kind of like a different genre. So like issue 1, I think was kind of like an open kind of all genres. Issue 2 is kind of like the humor issue.
He didn't send us that. He used to send a small press party all the time because we always reviewed that, but he didn't send us that one. I don't know.
Joe, if you're listening,
he must have forgot us.
He must have. Yeah, he's
he hasn't done one.
He's forgotten the little people.
That's right. That's what happens when
you get that big, man.
Like he is. Then he forgets the little guy.
I want to very quickly mention Greenpeace because there's a couple of issues that Adam Owen was doing Greenpeace a couple of decades ago, and you wrote a couple of these stories.
Yeah, I wrote
really?
My first published small press work was The Right to Remain Violent.
I love that name.
I saw that here with me.
That is a great name.
It's such a great name, and actually the way I came up with stories was. Yeah, is that the infestation one?
Yeah, infestation.
So basically, the way I wrote Greenpeace stories was I came up with the title first, and then wrote a story around it because they were all like very pun heavy. So like I think there was I came up with one. It was the first one I think that Adam did based off of my original script was Tears of a Clone.
I might have that one. It rings a bell.
Now, do you like to write humor or more or serious stuff?
I love it all. Like
you do? You do anything?
I love it all. Yeah, honestly, basically, if there's someone that I really want to work with, I'll just be like, you tell me what you want to draw, and I'll do a story around it.
Cool.
So I don't.
I'm going to keep that in mind.
Oh yeah,
That's the hardest part for me. Coming up with the idea,
Yeah.
The story.
And like I said, I'm a big fan of a prompt. So if an artist is like, I want to draw a story about this, I'm like, okay. And then the way my process is, because I'm a lazy man, and I don't like writing anything down until I have it clear in my head.
Yeah.
So once I get my kernel of an idea, then I just basically like let it simmer while I'm doing just kind of like stuff that doesn't require any thought. So like when I'm walking my dog Penny, who you heard barking earlier, or like mowing the lawn, like all that stuff is perfect for working on a story, because I'll just be like, okay, so today, let's say Larned is like, I want to tell a story about this. I'm like, okay, so when I'm walking Penny today, I just got to start working out Larned's story, and
What I'd like you to do is, we just got about 3 or 4 inches of snow, and I'd like you to shovel the driveway and come up with a story.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm from Minnesota, and I don't miss that whatsoever. You're in Missouri now, right?
Yeah, right.
You've always been in Missouri?
No, I'm originally from Chicago.
I'm in Orlando. I'm in Orlando, Florida. I haven't seen snow in
didn't have any snow
30 years.
Yeah, people don't even know what it looks like.
I see it on the news.
It's white.
Big snowstorm in the Northeast. And I walk outside and it's 80 degrees. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I need to put on my winter coat, I guess.
How far is Bradenton from you? Do you know?
I've been to Bradenton.
I'm not sure.
The only reason I mentioned it,
it's on the West Coast.
Okay.
It's on the West Coast.
Is it near Tampa or? Tampa's about a couple-hour drive.
The only reason I mentioned it, there's a comic book shop
north
there.
Of Fort Myers a ways.
They used to have the comic book shop here, but then they moved to Bradenton, I think, and it's called Bat City Comic Professionals. But it's a nonprofit comic book shop. So all the money is used for like children's literacy programs.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to. I didn't know if you're. I was going to say if you're anywhere near them, it would be cool to check them out because again, it's literally comic books to help kids read, basically.
All right,
so,
Steve, you got something to do now.
I just typed it in, and it is. Okay, it would be. I see. Okay, I just typed it in on Google. You'll go from Orlando west to Tampa, and then go down by St. Petersburg. I might have been to Bradenton before.
If you're ever in the neck of the woods,
be a little about 2 hours.
That ain't bad. Bad City Comic Professionals. I'm a big fan. Well, with Sunday Jam, so the printed copies, any proceeds above like whatever Joe needs like for cost of printing goes to Reading is Fundamental. I'm a big fan. I've worked for nonprofits my whole life, so I'm a big fan of like help, especially if you can use your creativity to like create something that can help other people. That's so we've only raised, well, not only, we've raised $13 so far because we've sold a few comics. But to your listeners, if you want to read a good comic and the money goes to a good cause, Sunday Jam Comics.
There you go.
You're never going to read a story like it anywhere else.
No, that's for sure.
There's pickle bots. You got robots trying to open jars of pickles. You got that page. So Donald Tenney, when he did that page, because it came out of nowhere.
Oh, Donald Tenney?
Yeah. He, because Mark Hayes had done his page, and it was kind of like it was a great page, and then I was like, oh, I wonder what they're gonna do, and then
Donald Tenney's got a distinctive. Donald Tenney does like everything on his cell phone. He does all his art on his cell phone with some program.
Amazing. I'm very curious. I think he's got a project going on right now that he just sent to the inker, and I'm very curious. I haven't actually seen his work inked before, so I'm very curious to see because it's so detailed, like so line heavy. I'm very curious to see like what an inker does with his penciling style.
Really?
I love it.
Very
it's really good.
Jason, we have found that if we go much over an hour, nobody will watch it.
I talked
so
as my wife.
I think this was fantastic. What a great job you did.
As my wife can tell you, I talk way too much about comics. So, well, like I said, I'm happy to talk about.
We could do it again sometime.
I was gonna say if you ever want to do like a Sunday Jam corner, and I can tell you like why I love this page or that page or what we're doing with it right now.
Okay.
I would.
Well, we will talk about that because I know you mentioned it to me earlier.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned it to Steve, and
plus I just love talking about everybody else because everybody's so talented. So if I can get people to like go there and then click on the other people's names and look up their comics and read their comics, that would be fantastic.
Okay. Well, we're always looking for ideas for our show.
Yeah.
That might be something we can do, and I would enjoy
this has
that.
been this has been really inspiring. Jason, I can't believe the amount of energy, the amount of dedication that you have towards creating comics and just the entire community. There is one thing. We didn't ask you how old you are. How old are you?
Yeah, you asked us. But
no, right? I was like, oh, now they're going to ask me. I'm 48. I'm going to be 49 this year.
So you're in grade school?
I would say my wife sometimes thinks I am in grade school. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but yeah, this is y'all. I can't thank you enough. Obviously, I could talk all day about this stuff.
Really. All
right,
I'm gonna end this. Everybody say goodbye.
Yeah, thanks so much for whoever watches. You can.
It's been a pleasure. Been an honor.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
All right,
y'all have a great day. Bye.
Adios.